setting off from Mildura for a 50k paddle downriver on the Murray River. Just an opportunity time I took and loaded up the Cabo double kayak. Mildura, of course, is the major city on the Murray River and a beautiful place to explore south to the Mallee country. And you can see it's just a perfect day in terms of wind, but this is springtime. Springtime in the Mallee, it starts to get warm, and as I was to find out during this trip, I'd underestimated the heat. There's very little flow in the Murray, and so you've got to really paddle. Houseboats are a big feature, especially on the Victorian side. This is the left hand side, and on the right hand side is New South Wales. Bit more legislation on the New South Wales side, but you're not really allowed to live in houseboats permanently, I believe, or most of the Murray except the marinas. But finding shady spots was quite challenging. The temperature was getting up to the 30s. Monitoring the Murray, of course, is a big thing. Monitoring the flow, and this is one of the boys that monitor conditions on the Murray. And report to the authorities what's going on. They describe the river flow. The floods in the Murray can be quite dramatic, and it can really affect the landscape. So they have, there's what's called like floodplain farming. This is actually a dredger. I'm passing a dredger here that on a shallow point about 10k south. The Murray silts up quite a lot, and some places are regularly blocked, and even riverboats can't get on it. It just depends on the flows in the Murray-Darling Basin, which is a huge basin. I'm now starting to fatigue here. It's getting 35 degrees, and it's I realise I probably shouldn't have planned the trip. The water is cooling, but it's not really that refreshing. It's so warm. October time on the Murray. This little elbow shortcut is quite interesting because you'd only get through it really on a kayak. It's really rock strewn, and but it saved about maybe 10k, I think, or less than 10k. Interesting changing landscape here. It's you looking to camp. I needed shade, but the heat was just phenomenal. The land actually was warmer than being on the river. The land stored the heat, and I'm actually realizing I think I'm actually suffering from a bit of heat stroke by this stage. And I've got plenty of water. I had about 20 litres of water, but I have to let the body rest and cool down. And during the night I actually bathed in the river a lot, so I didn't sleep that much, and then the body recovered by the morning. Had my breakfast of oats and fruit, and carried on south. The second day wasn't quite as bad, I don't think. A bit of breeze, you can see there's a bit of breeze on the water, and this is one of the interesting bridges. This is a lifting bridge, I think it's the only lifting bridge, the Abbotsford Bridge on the Murray. I've ridden over it on the motorcycle, and I've even taken the paddle boat under it. There's little villages down the Murray. This is one that's got a campsite, and you cross into New South Wales on the right side, as I say. I was looking also for canoe trees, indigenous people using the bark of the trees to make kayaks, to make canoes. And so I was continuously looking for them, because there are several, and there's a major one down. So this is a big bend, and often they are called big bends, the actual name. So this is a great place to run ashore and to chill out and have to really cool down, let the body cool down a bit, and put the hammock up. And just kick back with a book for a few hours, and then launch the DJI Mini 3 drone. As I've said before in these videos, I'm a pretty amateur pilot when it comes to the drone, but you want to put the drone up to get a vista, to get the actual scope of the Mallee country and the river. It really is. This is looking south towards the Sunset Desert Park, a vast desert park which I've ridden over my dirt bike, a pretty wild wilderness, and there's not much human life there. There used to be soldier settlers in part of these regions because they had a few good years, and they foolishly thought in the 1920s and 30s that they could settle, but of course they couldn't. The land's too dry. If you were any distance from the Murray, you wouldn't survive. So the Murray is the lifeblood of this whole region, this riverina, and further south, the Wimmera, they call it. The Wimmera has got slightly more marginal country, for farming. But this is one of the wildest stretches of the Murray, from Mildura south to the South Australian border at Renmark, because it's covered in just wild country, several desert parks, and it's a great country to explore by four-wheel drive, dirt bike. And if you really want solitude like this, the canoe is amazing. You see very little traffic on the Murray because it's so big, and there's a few houseboat hubs, but not that many. So you really enjoy the solitude. And these beaches are beautiful. They're actually, proper river sand, and you can really enjoy bathing. So now I'm starting to find canoe trees. There's one there, and this is just north of Wentworth. And Wentworth is a very historical town on the New South Wales side, and it was where a lot of explorers called Charles Wentworth came there, I think in 1859. He named it. He got over the Blue Mountains and went down the Murray. So this is the island, I think it's Confluence Island. This is an island just outside Wentworth. And the plaque looks at, mentions the canoe tree that the indigenous people used. You see the cut-out bark. And Charles Sturt, he was another great explorer. He called here. The Murray, of course, was a thoroughfare for explorers, but of course, long before that, indigenous people used it as their highway up and down, and seemingly there was vast populations of indigenous people around it, and they suffered badly when the colonists started arriving with diseases and with their way of living. But Charles Sturt, he was one of the heroes. He explored right through into the deserts in the hinterland, looking for the famous inland sea, of course, which existed millions of years ago. So this is a whole plan of the Murray, Darling Basin and Mildura, where I went, and then down to Wentworth. Wentworth itself is a flood-prone village, and 1956 was the big flood, and it was famously